Thank you for tuning in to the Mariners Virtual Baseball Bash and this evening's special program. Now, here's your host, Rick Riz.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to a very special Mariners presentation as we celebrate the 20th anniversary of the 2001 season, one of the greatest years in the history of Major League Baseball. Hi, I'm Rick Riz, and today we're going to visit with four of the players who played a vital role in the 2001 Mariners winning 116 games. How about that? 116 wins that year, more wins than any team in the history of the game. Now, prior to 2001, the Mariners had lost the big unit, Randy Johnson Jr. and A-Rod. But Hall of Fame GM Pat Gillett put together a winning team for future Hall of Famer Lou Piniella to manage. It was a team that added the very first position player from Japan, Ichiro, and what a debut he had. It was a team that led the American League in hitting and runs scored, pitching, and defense. What a year. We're proud to welcome back some of the key members of that unforgettable team. Today, we're going to visit with a young man who grew up in Paulsbo, Washington, Aaron Sele, who went 15-5 that year. And we're also going to visit with second baseman Bret Boone, who had a remarkable year, hitting .331, 37 home runs, 141 runs batted in. Catcher Tom Lampkin, the local kid also, who teamed with Dan Wilson behind the plate to play a vital role throughout the year with that pitching staff. And finally, the man Dave Niehaus called the Sheriff, Norm Charlton, who helped save baseball in 1995, and he still had a lot left in the tank to help the Mariners win 116 games in 2001. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today to relive one of the greatest years in the history of Mariners baseball and really the game itself. Now, here's a quick question for everybody. First of all, hi, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. Can you believe, guys, it's been 20 years that all of you made history that season? Aaron, let's start off with you, buddy.
I think you just have to look at the gray. I mean, that's the only. 20 years. Yeah, it seems like yesterday, and then getting a chance to visit with everybody. The memories come back and just realize how much friendship we had on that team, and I think that's what made everybody click.
Yeah, those were great times and great years, and it's cool to get back together and talk to some of these guys, because when we do, it's like you never really left. It seems like you pick up right where you left off.
How about you, Norm? 20 years flew by.
Flew by. It was amazing. Those memories are burned into your mind. The things that we did on the field, as well as the way we interacted with each other off the field, the dinners and the drinks and the this and the that, and it was phenomenal. Those things will never be forgotten by us and probably by the people of Seattle.
Yeah, absolutely. And Boone, those 20 years really flew by, didn't they?
They did. It's either a really long time ago or it seems just like yesterday. I mean, getting on the call with you guys today, it seems like, we got to go to the yard in a couple hours. But it's been 20 years since this group played together. Only the people that were in that clubhouse can really kind of put into words what that year was like. It was like no other year I've ever played professionally. And it wasn't an arrogance. It was a confidence that I've never seen before. And it was no more than a look or a glance that we had with each other, that we knew we were good. We know we were going to win. We knew we were going to win every night. And the guys there really kind of held on to it and enjoyed it, because this game is so tough. It was a once-in-a-lifetime season. So pretty awesome. Yeah, glad to be here today.
It really was awesome, Booney. You guys start off the year 20-5. That was a major league record for wins in the month of April. And then you're 40-12 at the end of May. When did you guys realize that you had something really going that was very special with that ball club? Aaron?
We figured it out towards the end of spring training. We kind of just started to gel. Ichiro came over. We weren't sure what our offense was going to do. We knew we had great pieces intact to produce, but we just weren't sure how it was going to work out. And going into that first week and starting to roll early, it's like Booney said, man, we'd glance at each other, and, whoever the starting pitcher was that day, on the way out, one of the position players would say, "Hey, just need 5, let's go." And we'd go out there and you'd roll off 6 or 7 and hand it to guys like Norm in the bullpen, and it rolled early.
Norm, Boone, and Tom, a lot of new faces, joined the ball club during the spring. Aaron was there the year before. Tom, you had already been there. So Norm and Boone and Tom, when did you see something that was going to, be, something exciting was going to happen that year?
20-5 gives you a pretty good clue. That gives you a pretty good clue right there. Early it was kind of hard to tell.
Yeah.
We didn't really know what we had. We knew we were pretty good. I think we felt like we were all pretty good. I think we felt like we needed to get through without a whole bunch of injuries. Now later in the season, that was a different deal. But early was tough.
Yeah, I know. For me, I was probably one of the older guys on the team, and everywhere that I had gone. And the cool thing about Seattle was there was a lot of guys that had a lot of experience and that were proven major league successes at the major league level. So for me, like Boone said, every time we come in the clubhouse, there was a confidence that we had in everybody that was going to be on the field, whether it was on the mound or offensively or defensively. So it was always assumed that somebody during the course of the game was going to pick up the rod and take it and do something to help us win. It was almost like in the middle of the game, we'd say, okay, guys, somebody's turn to turn this thing around. And we won games that way. We won games because people had confidence in everybody else that was on the team. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that we did have older guys there. We had veteran players there that had all proven that they could play at that level. And, one thing I always tell people about Lou was a lot of guys hated him. A lot of guys loved him. But one thing about Lou is he provided an atmosphere for guys to want to come and thrive, especially veteran players. And that was kind of fun. So that was always fun to come to the yard knowing that we were going to get that opportunity.
Exactly. You had a lot of great veteran guys come and join that ball club. Eventually, John Olerud got there and Stan Pierre and Mark McLemore and everybody just chipped in. Tom, let's go back to you right away. You had Freddie Garcia, Aaron Sele there, Jamie Moyer, Brett Tomko, John Halama in the starting rotation, along with a few other young pitchers later on during the year. You had Norm down there in the bullpen, along with Arthur Rhodes and Jeff Nelson, Kazuhiro Sasaki, who had 45 saves that year, Ryan Franklin, Jose Pontiac. What's it like for you to catch that particular group of guys?
It was awesome. And I tell people all the time when they ask me about, who did you like to catch? And it's like, well, the whole staff in Seattle was good. Not only did we have guys that threw hard, but we had guys that had great command. We had guys that had great action on their ball. And, that puts so many weapons in the hands of a guy like me, because it doesn't matter really what I call. I think we can get people out with ground balls, with fly balls, with strikeouts. We had confidence in our defense. We were good defensively. We could chase balls down in the outfield. We were going to pick balls in the infield. It was incredible. I mean, the way that we connected on the mound and at the plate was fun. I mean, it was exciting. It's challenging. It makes your job fun when guys are going to throw the ball where you want it, and they've got the stuff to get people out. And it was exciting. It was exciting for me. The whole year was exciting for me.
Yeah, that starting staff was incredible. Norm, that was your third stint with the ball club. In 1990, you were with the Nasty Boys, the Cincinnati Reds that won the World Series. You were the closer for the ball club at a key time of the 1995 season, getting us to the playoffs for the first time. And now you're with this bullpen. How good was the bullpen with you and all those guys in 2001?
Well, let's go back a little bit. In 1990, I was in a bullpen that was pretty good. I think, to say the least. I think we kind of started a trend about what teams would like to do with their bullpens. Man, we had that kind of bullpen in Seattle with Sasaki as our closer, and then you had Arthur from the left side and Jeff from the right side. And then you had the rest of us picking up the slack, when those guys couldn't go. And we didn't lose a whole lot when you got down to the fifth and sixth guys. So the way our bullpen performed day in, day out was pretty special. It made life for Lou Piniella probably fairly simple. It gave the starters a boost that, I think that they knew that they'd go out there and pitch their tail off for as long as they could and then hand the ball to us, they probably go in the clubhouse and come out with a win as opposed to a lot of other times on a lot of other teams. So that bullpen was really special. I'm pretty proud to be a part of it.
Aaron, let's go back to the starting rotation. You were an all-star of the year before with the ball club in 2001. You had another outstanding year. What made that starting rotation so outstanding with you and Freddie and Jamie and the rest? What stood out about that particular rotation with you in it?
Well, really, I think we had a conversation right before the season started, the five of us, and said, hey, with this team, we just need to keep it close. And that was our entire attitude all year long was, hey, some days you're in a groove and you can keep it, 2-1, 1-0. And eventually this team was going to pick you up and take off. And, we kind of alluded to that earlier, about the fifth inning. We're kind of looking around like, hey, one of you guys do something. And somebody did every night. It was amazing. And so as a starting pitcher, when you can go out there and just compete and keep it close, you got a chance to win every night. And like you said, the offense was going to pick you up some way. The defense was definitely going to pick you up some way. And like you said, if you're having a rough night and you needed to hand the ball off early, that bullpen was unbelievable. And if you handed the ball off late, it was unbelievable. So we just competed. And that's I think that's what our guys did every day. We competed every at bat, every inning.
Yeah, that pitching staff was awesome. And you were a big part of it, Aaron. Boney, what a year. You hit .331, 37 home runs, 141 runs batted in. What was it like hitting fifth in that order behind Ichiro, Mike Cameron, Edgar Martinez, and John Olerud? And then later on, Lou moved you up to the number 3 spot in front of Edgar.
How was that? I mean, start to finish, it was an unbelievable season. Not only for me personally. I mean, I think you look around, and I'll just go to the offensive side of the ball now. I think you look at top to bottom in that lineup, a lot of career years that year. And Lou wanted me to hit third a couple months into the season. And I remember having a talk with Johnny and Edgar saying, I'm probably better hitting fifth behind you guys because I'll expand the strike zone. These two guys that I'm hitting with in the middle of the lineup, Edgar and Johnny, if it's this far off the plate, they're not swinging. Pretty easy to pitch around. But I was tough to pitch around. So I always thought I could hit fifth and, they could try to throw it out of the zone. And that's kind of in my wheelhouse. But Lou ultimately wanted me to hit third. And like I said, that year, it didn't matter. Third, fourth, fifth, wherever we felt like we were going to win that night.
Talking about Lou Piniella, Lou pulled all the right strings and pushed all the right buttons. And he had you guys to get it done on the field. What did Lou Piniella mean to that ball club in 2001?
Was that for me, Riz?
That's for you, Boney. Yeah.
Lou, well, that was my second round in Lou. I had Lou as a rookie back in 93. And then I came full circle in 2001. And it was a completely different Lou. I'd been in the league for a long time now. Lou was unbelievable. And to this day, my favorite manager, and I got to play for some pretty special guys, but Lou is, when they broke the mold when they put Lou Piniella on this planet. Let's just put it that way. I think everybody here can attest to that. But I remember reporters coming to me a couple months in, and we talked about, we started, 40-12, something ridiculous.
Yeah.
And the reporter, typical question is, hey, it seems that Lou, in his older age here, he's really calmed down a lot. And I kind of looked at him like, were you kidding me? Lou was unbelievable. I think these guys have said that. He set the tone. And by midseason, it was such a veteran team. There were so many personalities on that team and so many strong presences. It kind of ran itself. I mean, Lou didn't have to do much. He just kind of put the lineup. I'd come out on the top step right before we take the field, and he'd go, all right, let's go. It was just kind of one of those. Let's go, guys. I mean, and that's the way it was. That's the way I remember it. It was this magical year.
Norm, you probably know Lou as well as anybody. You were with Lou in 1990 with the Reds when you won the World Series. what did Lou mean to you in that 2001 season when he got you back?
Lou was fantastic. Boone, he was the same manager as you played for when you were a rookie. It's a different Boone. It really was. It's a different Boone. You were no longer a rookie. You were a veteran player and established. And those are the kind of guys that Lou liked. I mean, you heard Lampkin talk about it. You've heard Seals talk about it. Lou and Pat Gillick put together a club that pretty much ran itself. And you heard guys say people had a career year. Pretty much all he had to do is fill out the lineup card. It didn't really matter who batted where or who pitched when, or he could pretty much put everything in a hat and throw it out there. And we were going to do what we did. And that was the beauty of Lou. Lou would tell you, son, it doesn't matter. You bat third, you bat fifth, I'll bat you ninth. It doesn't matter. We're going to win. I think a lot of that credit goes to the players, but a lot of it goes to Lou, which the way he handled the clubhouse and the way he let guys handle the clubhouse and the way he let things roll along. Every night, go get them, boys. We'll have fun afterwards.
Everybody has a great Lou story. Tom, you have one of the funniest Lou stories I've ever heard about being in the clubhouse and his passion for teaching. Lou had just come out of the shower, soaking wet, wearing nothing but a towel, and all of a sudden he wants to give you a tutorial about hitting. Tom, in your best words, can you describe that little hitting instruction in the clubhouse with Lou Piniella?
Well, okay. So, first of all, there's only parts of it I can say, but I can tell you that that happened in spring training. We were in Arizona, and he had just come out of the shower, and he wanted to. He knew what I was doing wrong, put it that way, and he was going to show me because it was on his mind, and he didn't really care what he was wearing or who was around. And we were in the video room, and he started telling me, what I was doing with my potty. I was lunging out front. Well, in the process of him showing me what I was doing wrong, he knocked his towel off of him, and we were sitting there between the three of us, just trying not to laugh. And I think who was in the room was Gerald Perry, and if Gerald was the instigator of all of it, he couldn't stop laughing. So that was. But that was Lou. See, that was Lou. Lou was a pitching coach. He was a hitting coach. He was a psychologist. He was a motivator. He was a manager. I mean, he provided the atmosphere for guys to want to come to the yard every day. I mean, he hired a great pitching coach. I mean, Brian Price was outstanding. You asked Norman, Aaron. I mean, he ran that staff. Half the time, I remember a couple times Lou telling me, go get this guy out of here. I've seen enough of this guy. I say, Lou, we ain't got nobody up in the bullpen. I don't give a pick. Go put somebody in. And he'd call down there and try to get somebody up real quick. But that was Lou. I mean, Lou hired a good pitching coach, and you know what? He was great with the media. He was the buffer between the fans and the players, and that was a great thing. Like I said, and that's what I tell people why Lou was such a great manager. Like Boone and Norman said, the players ran the game. I mean, we were on the field, we played the game. You could have thrown almost any lineup out there, and we would have won games. But Lou did things off the field and behind the scenes that a lot of people don't realize that made us the players, I think, that year that we were.
I always enjoyed doing the manager's show with Lou every other day. David and I would switch off, and at 3:00 in the afternoon, I'd go in his office to interview Lou, and then Mac would come in, and they would put together the lineup. I go, you guys want me to leave? And he said, no, stay right there, Ricky. You're all right. And he would map out the game from the 7th inning on at 3:00 in the afternoon. He knew exactly, what moves he wanted to make, when he was going to make them. And sure enough, in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning, he did it because you guys were able to do your job. You guys were amazing. Talking about amazing.
Are you claiming that Lou was at the yard at 3?
No, he was there long before 3. But at 3:00, right, when I went in there to do the interview, he would sit there with Mac and say, okay, we're going to do this and I'm going to do that. Let's do this. And sure enough, it happened. He was incredible. A little guy comes over from Japan in 2001. We don't know how good he's going to be and what he's going to do. And he had an incredible year, an incredible career Ichiro. Boone, what was it like watching Ichiro his rookie season, playing behind you out there in right field, and also from a pitcher's perspective, Aaron, to watch Ichiro and what he did in 2001?
Well, I think when Ichiro came, I think you set it up pretty well. None of us knew what to think of this. We watched him in spring training, and still, the veteran eyes are kind of looking at each other like, is this going to work in the big leagues? We know he's had some success in Japan, and I think from the players on up to the skipper. Skipper, I remember in that spring training, give me some roll of the eyes, like, oh, yeah. I don't know what this is going to be. But I think Ichiro had and obviously the career that he's had, he had a little better idea on what he expected out of himself. And from the get-go, what people don't realize is Ichiro, when he got here, he knew a lot more English than he let on. He was very charismatic. He was funny. He fit in perfect to that team. And I think, everybody that's watched Ichiro over his 20-year career, you see the type of numbers he put up. I'd never seen anything like it. I think he single-handedly changed the game as far as how you defense. Nobody had ever hit routine ground balls to short and beat him out on a consistent basis. And I think it forced defenses in the big leagues to change how they defense. He put a lot of pressure on the other team when he came to the plate, because it was just something that we hadn't seen before. And he was a huge part of that 2001 team. And, obviously Hall of Fame career.
Aaron, what about you watching Ichiro out there and as a teammate?
He was tremendous as a teammate. I think having gone over to Japan and scouted, after playing career was over, and seeing how much of an icon he really is. The best part is he's all over these beer ads. He doesn't drink. And so but he's all over Japan, and it kind of cracks you up, because you think of all these little funny stories, about him being in the clubhouse, and, think about the transition about being an icon in Japan and then coming over to this veteran team with a lot of personalities, with Boone and Cameron and McLemore, and who aren't going to let anything slide, and Bone, Jay's not going to miss a beat with you. And he absorbed it. He absorbed all the ribbings that he took, and he gave plenty himself, a lot more than people think. But yeah, I mean, it was electric. The defense, the offense. I mean, you just watch it and it's like, wow. I mean, he was a Hall of Fame player for sure, and we just didn't know it. He did, but we did. Boone, were you at that group, or maybe Lampy? I don't know. In spring training when Lou kind of snapped on him to drive the ball on field one there.
Yeah,
and then
I was down there.
And he turned around and he said, "Shh, I have plan." He had a plan, all right. He had a Hall of Fame plan.
Yeah, Lou was going, where's Ted Hyde? Where's Ted Hyde? He wanted to talk to Ichiro's interpreter. He said, and then Ichiro came down there. He said, tell him to pull the ball one time, because he was sitting in line, drives a foul ball over his head in his folding chair, during games, Just killed him a few times. He said, I want to see him pull the ball. Sure enough, first at bat in the game against the Padres, I think he hit a home run, right?
Yep. Yeah. He was great. He fit in. I mean, those three clowns that are on this Zoom call with me, they were, they're all characters. They're all characters, and they didn't let him get away with anything.
Yeah. Fellas, we have to talk about what happened on one of the saddest days in the history of our country. September the 11th, 2001, we awoke to the horrific news that two planes had crashed in the World Trade Center towers in New York. One plane crashed into the Pentagon in Washington, and another plane that was heading to the Capitol crashed in a field in Pennsylvania. Aaron Sele, you were scheduled to start that night in Anaheim against the Angels. What do you remember about that day, and how did you guys get through the following week on one of the saddest days in our history?
Yeah, we were at the hotel in Anaheim, and I had my wife at the time, and my kids were real young, and she had gotten them up and got them out the door so I could sleep in a little bit. And I got a phone call that woke me up, and you're wrapped up in your little baseball world because it's all about you that day, right? I got to pitch, you got to take care of me. And she's like, turn on the TV, see what you got to see what's. I'm like, why are you waking me up? I got to pitch tonight. Turned on the TV, and that's about the time the second plane hit the tower. And it was like obviously we're in shock. I've got goosebumps right now just thinking about it. And it's, how we got through it. I think we got through it like everybody else in the nation did, just trying to be together and trying to focus on things that mattered, and family and friends and things like that.
Tom, what do you remember about the morning of September the 11th, 2001?
Yeah, I remember it well too. I remember being in the hotel, and I remember Danny called me at about 7:00 in the morning and said, "Lampy, turn the TV on." And I said, "What channel?" And he said, "It doesn't matter, just turn it on." And so I turned it on, and I had actually caught it before the second plane had hit, so we were still watching the smoke from the first one, and we just sat there and talked about, we just couldn't believe it. We just couldn't believe that was happening. It was one of those things that, you maybe see in a movie, but we're actually living it. And then I just remember getting off and calling my family and just, saying everything's okay where we are. We don't know what's going to happen. Just kind of stay tuned. And, and then of course the plane hits the next one, and we're trying to worry about how we're going to get home. And it was crazy. It was crazy. There was some realization at some point that we were going to have to play again, but I think reality started to set in that it wasn't going to be that day, and Aaron was going to miss the start. But it was crazy, man. It really was. It was. But the cool thing too was we had a part in that. I can tell you from living in Vancouver right now, which is still in Washington State. There was a lot of people that came up to me and said that the way that the team handled that, the last part of that season, really meant a lot to the recovery of the communities in which they lived, which is mostly outside of Seattle. So I don't know. I know Norman and Boone both, and Aaron all lived up there for a while, either before or after the seasons. And we were a huge part of that. The team and the victories and the wins that team had was a huge part of of repairing that, what had happened, not only to Seattle and Washington, but to the whole country. And the way they thought about baseball, was great. And so that was good. That's a good feeling. It was good that baseball could actually do that for people, and that the team and the guys on that team could really have a hand in it.
Yeah, exactly. They came back 7 days later, guys, and you clinched the American League West with a shutout against the Angels out at T-Mobile Park.
The 1-2 pitch on the way now. Swing and a high pop-up. This will do it. Calling is Bret Boone on the outfield grass, and the Mariners have won their 106th game, and, of course, are the 2001 Western Division champions. No jumping around. Bret Boone going out to congratulate Ichiro. Mike Cameron coming over. Charles Gibson coming over in the outfield. All the Mariners coming out of the dugout, walking very slowly out towards second base. As the rest of the team comes in, Lou Piniella, of course, out there, and everybody receiving some hugs as the championship is there. There's a Western Division championship here in 2001.
I'll never forget the image of Mike Cameron and Mark McLemore holding the flag out by the mound as you won the division title. And you did it in such a respectful way. Can you describe that moment in time of what it meant to all of you and to all of us, Norm?
I don't know that you can really describe that. I don't think we'll ever know what it meant to the people across the country, people in the Seattle area. I don't collect memorabilia, and I have that picture. I remember that day like it was yesterday. And I remember those guys on that team, and I remember walking around that field and standing on that mound with those guys in that situation. These other three guys are probably not going to admit it when they talk about it. It's probably almost going to bring tears to their eyes. I've done this on some other calls. We won 116 games that year. I won a World Series. I've been on an all-star team. That is probably the highlight of my baseball career right there.
Wow.
Being able to walk around that mound with those group of guys in that situation holding the American flag. Sometimes it's hard to realize in our little baseball community that things happen that go beyond baseball.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, one of those things that's beyond baseball.
Boney, what did that moment mean to you, buddy?
No, I think That's something that's what I was going to say. It transcended the game. Because when we go, we're in a bubble in professional, in Major League Baseball and NFL, whatever, at the highest level. Once you get to the ballpark and you put the uniform on, you're a performer, and everything's about the game and about the win. And with all the emotions that year that we went through, from professionally to what happened on 9/11, that was a surreal moment. We had a lot of surreal moments for different reasons that particular year. But that one was bigger than the game, was bigger than professional sports. That was reality, and that was a life moment at the highest level that I'll never forget.
You guys were definitely a part of the healing process. The Major League record for wins in a season was 116. It was set by the 1908 Chicago Cubs, guys. With time running out on the year, here comes game number 161. And you won for the 116th time, matching that Major League record. Denny Stark started that game. And 5 pitchers, Aaron, I see you laughing, 5 pitchers combined on a 2-hit, 1-0 shutout of the Texas Rangers. Bret Boone, your home run in that game was the only run of the game. What do you guys remember about win number 116 that gave you the Major League record? Aaron?
Well, it's funny when you mentioned Denny started that game. That was, we didn't call up a lot of guys in September because we didn't need a lot of guys in September. And those guys, because of the veteran presence, largely including the 3 other guys on this screen, those kids got an idea what this meant, what we were shooting for, in the playoffs and the Major League record and everything. And I remember Denny being nervous going out to take them out. And that's why, and he pitched outstanding, obviously.
No, that was really something special. Guys, what was it like to wrap up win number 116? Tom, Norm, Booney?
Well, for me, sitting down in the bullpen and watching all that play out, win number 116 pretty much wrapped up a season where 2 things happen every day in that season. We came to the ballpark knowing we were going to kick somebody's ass, and the other ball team came to the ballpark knowing they were going to get their ass kicked. And that started from day one and lasted through 116 games. And that was one of the most phenomenal things that you can say about that season.
Tom, just days before that, you had 2 doubles. You drove in 4 runs to beat the Rangers for win number 114. So what was it like for you to be a part of all that?
Well, it was great. I mean, these guys have said it all. I mean, it was awesome. I mean, we knew we were going to win when we came into the clubhouse. We really did, and that was an incredible feeling. In fact, I still have a lot of people that ask me that question today. What was it like? And it's like we just knew we were going to win. We knew that at some point during the game, somebody was going to do something, and we were going to win. It's like, okay, guys, it's time. It's that time. We need to win. And sometimes sometimes it was our offense and sometimes it was our defense. But it was always somebody. And I don't remember a lot of specific games, but I can tell you that and I'm not going to say that it became ho hum when we won, but it was after the games, it was just like, well, it was just, we knew it was going to happen. We just didn't know how it was going to happen, but it happened. And it was amazing. It was amazing. It just was amazing.
You had one heck of a game in win number 114, buddy, and had a heck of a year. Guys, we can't forget about the impact Hall of Fame general manager Pat Gillick had on this ball club. He put all you guys together. He brought you guys together to form one of the greatest teams in the history of the game. Aaron, Booney, Norm, he brought you guys back as free agents. He traded for Mike Cameron the year before, and that trade for Ken Griffey Jr. with Cincinnati. What can you tell us about the effect that Pat Gillick had on this ball club? Aaron?
Well, I mean, if you look at what Pat did, and Booney said it, he brought in winning veteran players. Obviously being a general manager, you're got a really tough task of staying under budget, bringing in the right types of players. But when you match up the coaching staff with the Lou Piniella, who gets the most out of veterans and allows them to be themselves, you bring in a young pitching coach who you believe in, who you think can get the most out of staff, and Brian Price, and then you add in the players that you added, that's the winning formula. Pat would never be the type to dig through all these analytical models and formulas and all this stuff. He just wanted winners, guys that would work and compete and win. And he went out and got those guys.
Boone, 2 years before that, the year before that, you San Diego Padres. What do you remember about the conversation with Pat coming back to Seattle?
Well, I'd hurt my knee in 2000 in San Diego, so there was a lot of question marks around baseball and how my knee was the last 6 weeks, and to be honest with you, it wasn't that great. We got it rectified and things ended up working out, but I believe I don't remember it that vividly, but I believe it was Lou that had reached out and he, obviously through Pat. But I got a phone call and I talked to my agent at the time and I said, let's go sign a 1-year deal and play like hell. And it ended up being with the Seattle Mariners. And at the time I thought I was in this huge predicament with the knee problem and what's going on. Ended up being the best move of my career because the rest for me is kind of history. I had my best year that next year and Pat was great. Pat was I think he did it the way I think you should do it in this game. You're behind the scenes. You put together the personnel. You hand it to your skipper that you trust wholeheartedly, and you let the players go play. I think that's what Pat did. He stayed out of our business, stayed out of the clubhouse. He gave it to his skipper who he trusted, and his skipper who he trusted his players. Yeah. And at 7:00 every night, we rolled out there. So Pat was a Hall of Fame type general manager.
He really was. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, and he is. Fellas, in 2001, Edgar Martinez was going strong on his way to the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York. It was his 15th season in the big leagues. He had 306. He had 26 home runs and 116 runs batted in. Booney, what was it like watching Edgar every day and hitting behind him most of the year?
Poppy, still probably one of my biggest influences from a hitting standpoint, and the talks we had, he was kind of my mentor. Edgar, and I remember a few things really stand out to me with Edgar, but I think he was a huge part of the way you play this game, and especially on the offensive side. And I remember Edgar Martinez, one of the best right-handed hitters of our generation. It was a day early in the season, and I think we were winning 8-2, and there was a runner on second. There was nobody out, and Edgar hit a decent ground ball to the right side, but it was obvious that he was getting the runner over. And I talked to him after the game. I said, Poppy, it's 8-2. Why are you giving yourself up in that situation? He said, I wasn't giving myself up. I was still trying to get a hit. He said, Booney, you play this game right, and in the end, the numbers will be there. And I thought about it for a while. What did he mean by that? The fact that it was 8-2, it really didn't matter if it was 9-2. But he said, this is how you play the game. And I think that rubs off on players. Because if Edgar Martinez can do it, Bret Boone's going to do it, and that 25th man on the roster is going to do it. And it's just the little things that create that camaraderie and that, I don't mean to be hokey with the terms, but we had an unbelievable help me out with the word that year.
Magic.
It was unbelievable, but you get it by the way you play the game. And Edgar did it, and he knew I was going to do it. He knew Johnny Olerud was going to do it. And when Tom Lampkin was up there, Lamp was going to play the game right, all the way down to the end. And that created such an unbelievable team atmosphere. And I learned that from Edgar. So huge part of my life and huge part, a huge mentor in the offensive side of the ball for me in my career.
Norm, in 1995, you saw Edgar hit that double the biggest hit in the history of our franchise. But in the 9th inning, Jack McDowell struck him out. Edgar told me after the strikeout in the 9th inning, he said it was you, Norm, that came up to him and said, you're going to have your chance again. In that moment, how did you help Edgar, and what do you remember about that moment, Norm?
Well, I think I told Edgar, I said, now, you've seen everything he's got. You've seen everything he's got today. You know what he's got today. And you know how he got you out. And I know how Edgar prepares, and I know how Edgar works. And his mind is always, 2 steps ahead. And I said, you're going to get another chance. Of course, I didn't know that was going to be true, but it just worked out that way. And he got another chance, and he got the big hit. Edgar's work habits. I learned a lot about pitching from listening to Edgar and Boone and Ed Sprague and on the back of the plane. We'd be back there on the back of the plane on a long flight thinking, can we just go to sleep? And those guys were talk hitting the whole time. And I'm back there with them listening going, so that's why I didn't get this guy out, because he's 2 steps ahead of me. Because, just it's one of the things about that ball club, the 2001 ball club, everybody stayed around and everybody listened to the veterans, and got guys with a long time in the big leagues, 2 hours after the game's over, still in the clubhouse, listening to somebody like Edgar preach about hitting, or listening, to one of the pitchers talk about pitching, or one of the base runners talk about stealing bases. In Edgar's work habits and the way Edgar went about the business and playing the game, really, Boney's right. You play the game right, and the numbers will be there in the end. You do the right thing, and the right thing will happen to you. And that's what Edgar always did.
Guys, throughout the season, you were playing before packed houses out at T-Mobile Park, 46,000 fans a game. The Mariners that year drew over 3.5 million fans that season. That was the most in Major League Baseball. Aaron, Tom, what was it like playing in front of those crowds in 2001?
It was great. That's where I grew up. I mean, I used to take the ferry across and, sneak in the left field gate at the Kingdom and watch the Mariners play back in the day. So that's my, what people don't understand about Seattle is it is a baseball town, but there is so much to do in the summertime. If you don't put a good product on the field, they're not coming. We were a good product. We were fun to watch. We had great charismatic players. They came out in droves to watch us, and it was fun. They were so electric to play. When you were at home, you knew you were going to win. I mean, it was just fun. It was a great place to be.
Tom, you remember the old Kingdom days. What was it like in front of those crowds at T-Mobile Park?
Yeah, so kind of like Aaron, I grew up in Bellevue and in that area, and went to high school in Seattle. And I used to go to the Mariners games when they first started back in the late 70s and early 80s in the Kingdom. In fact, I worked for them. Some of you guys might remember I was in the clubhouse with them for a while. And so to be able to play in that park or to work in the park and then play in the park and then make the transition to Safeco was great. So, but Aaron's right. I mean, if they didn't win, they didn't come. There was a lot of things to do in the Seattle area. And if you weren't winning, there were other things to do. And we won, and it was great. I mean, playing in front of, a packed house is great. I mean, a lot of it had to do with the stadium. I mean, that was a great yard. I mean, when they first opened it up, and we had a great summer, and I mean, it was a great place to play and a great place to watch a game. I mean, with the renovations they did in downtown were great. So, I mean, there was a lot of great aspects about, at that time, Safeco Field, and the team that we put on the field was good. Everything kind of clicked. So it was fun. Those were fun times.
Boone, you were one of eight Mariner All-Stars that season that was hosted and played at T-Mobile Park in 2001, a great crowd and all the festivities. What in the world was that experience like for you, Boone?
That was unbelievable. And I think the guys on the call here are kind of giving the audience out there what it was like to every night. I'd hit that top step right before we take the field, in the home game. And it didn't matter if it was Monday night against the last place team or Friday night against the Yankees. You could feel that electricity. That All-Star game was no different. And we had 8 of us got a chance to go that year. I didn't do that great, but I got to be in the home run derby. And still to this day, I've been pretty blessed in my life to witness a lot of things and get to go to World Series and All-Star games. And when they announced me to go to that home run derby, just, announce, next up, just kind of a normal thing. You get announced every day. The applause I got I still can feel it today. It was the biggest applause I've ever heard for myself One of the biggest moments, and I didn't even do anything. I think Sammy Sosa and me tied, but he went on via point, so I didn't even move on in the process. But I just remember the love from that city, that particular All-Star game, and that particular year was unbelievable. So very, very cool.
Guys, we have to wind this down. I want to ask each and every one of you, looking back at 2001, do you have one special moment that stands out? We've talked about so many, but personally for you, that really stands out in your mind about something very, very special that you guys did as a group. Aaron, why don't we start off with you, looking back at 2001?
And it's, for me personally, I really can't just nail one moment. I think there's so many little things that are just absolutely, poignant in the development of that club. For me, like I said, we the 5 starters, we got together before spring training and said, we're not really sure how many runs we're going to get, so we got to keep it close. One of the most offensive minded teams in the history of the game came out after that. So obviously we were really wrong. Moments, just people touched on the work ethic and the competitiveness. I had a chance to work with Lampy quite a bit that year. The time and energy that he put into my games, that made me who I was, or as good as I was that year. But that was all of us. That was the work ethic, the professionalism, and the things we can't share on camera that went on in the clubhouse, the conversations, that made it so worthwhile. And that's why 20 years later feels like it was yesterday.
Tom, what about you?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. There was a lot of individual things maybe, but I think the thing I remember most was, if I look back at the clubs that I was on, I think maybe 5 or 6 different clubs, and I could probably name every player on that roster that we had in September, before the September call-ups on that team. And the guys, the relationships that you had with the guys, I remember probably more than anything. And I can tell you that I was so appreciative to the Mariners organization when they put that 10-year reunion together. And I got an opportunity to see some of these guys again that I hadn't seen in a while. And hopefully this keeps up, because when we get together as a group and we get to tell stories about that year, whether they're loose stories or stories that happened on the field, that's what makes that team, that's what makes that time special for me. Not the fact that I might have done something or I something during the game, but to be able to now talk to Norman about fishing or hunting down in Texas, or Booney to come out and do an appearance for a fundraiser that I've got, or, I talked to Aaron a couple times about, when my son was coming up, trying to get jobs at the next level. Those kind of relationships that we get to keep them going, because we have Zoom calls and we have meetings and we have reunions. And those are the types of things I remember the most, and that I value most, is the opportunity now going forward that I get a chance to spend time or talk to some of these guys that I haven't talked to in a while.
Boney, how about you?
I don't know how we lost, how we didn't finish the deal. I think a lot of us are still questioning that. It was such a special year. I don't think we lost a series till September, Riz. Am I mistaken on that?
You guys didn't lose back-to-back games until August. How good you guys were.
We just did so many things that year that was unbelievable. And the only thing, I'm still looking for an excuse why we didn't win it all, because that year it was obvious. It was already over. We all knew we were going to win the whole thing. And, man, it just seemed like we had such a first of all, Ichiro coming over. So the Japanese press was unbelievable. That was at a different level. And usually when you get to the postseason, you get a lot of extra media. Well, we had that media starting at about 40-12. So we had that postseason media for the whole season. And I remember the night we got 116. It was almost like we had a tiny bit of a little celebration in the clubhouse afterwards and kind of cheersing each other. But it was kind of like, wow, it's finally over. They're finally going to quit asking us, when are we going to do it? Are we going to do it? It's over. Oh, no. Now we got to go out and go to the playoffs and win the World Series, and it didn't happen. But There's too many great memories from that season to pinpoint one. I think Lamp summed it up with the relationships that you took away from that 2001 season. It was the only team I've ever been on when I wouldn't have minded going to lunch with anybody on the team.
Wow.
Except for you, Riz. Yo, you weren't on the team.
You know what? You and I, we've always had a great relationship. It was that type of relationship right there that kept us going all those years, buddy, and I love you for it. Last but not least, the sheriff, Norm Charlton.
No, this one's pretty easy for me. And it's going to involve everybody that you're going to have on this call. It's the relationships that I made with the players, the training staff, the coaches, the front office, the general manager, and the fans of Seattle, and being able to walk on that field with that flag, with that group of guys, those people behind us, and share that with the people of Seattle and the people in that clubhouse and the people that made it happen. It's the most special thing that's happened in my career.
What a ball club. What a season. Ichiro on right, Mike Cameron at center, Jay Buhner, Al Martin, also in the outfield, David Bell at third, Carlos Guillen at shortstop, Boone at second base, one of the greatest years of any second baseman, John Olerud at first, Dan Wilson behind the plate along with you, Tom Lampkin, Aaron Sele, and that center rotation, and Freddie Garcia and Jamie Moyer, and the guys down in the bullpen. There's John Halama, there's Norm Charlton, Arthur Lee Rhodes, Jeff Nelson, Aziro Sasaki, led by Lou Piniella, Pat Gillick, John McLaren, Matty Sinatro, the coaching staff, everybody on that staff. It was one of the most remarkable years in the history of the game of baseball, and you guys were able to write one of the greatest chapters in the history of the game. I can't thank you enough for reliving some of these great memories. And I just want to say, on behalf of all the fans up here in the Pacific Northwest, thank you for a remarkable season in 2001. Guys, thank you so much.
Thanks, Ricky.
Thank you, Rick.
Man, this was so much fun, guys. I know we could talk for hours about the incredible 2001 Mariners season. And I know during this upcoming 20th anniversary season, the front office is already planning some great tributes to relive even more memories. But for right now, I want to thank you all for joining us today. And I want to remind the fans who are watching, you can join us tomorrow and Saturday as the Mariners Virtual Baseball Bash continues. Here are some of the great events we have coming up tomorrow, including a virtual workout with the strength and conditioning staff. That's tomorrow, in Clubhouse Chat with Dylan Moore. Plus, Saturday morning, it's going to be Kids Day. The Moose is leading a virtual workout. There's going to be 2 kids' press conferences. That'll be a great time. And Mariners Bingo for our youngest fans. Now, as a reminder, you can go to mariners.com/baseballbash for information on how you can join these great events. Once again, a special thanks to all of our panelists today, Aaron Sele, Bret Boone, Tom Lampkin, and the one and only the sheriff, Norm Charlton, who helped write one of the greatest chapters in the history of the Seattle Mariners, winning a major league record 116 games back in 2001. Thank you so much, guys, and good night, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to our 2001 20th Anniversary Roundtable. For more great content, visit mariners.com/baseballbash.